around the globe encounter strange creatures and phenomena that has not yet been known to mankind, not excluding the thousands of missing people that vanish each year in our national parks across the country. By shedding a little light in the dark on these cases, hopefully they will remind you to remember to always look behind you. October 22nd, 1962. 60 miles northwest of Raleigh, North Carolina, 52 years after the incident allegedly took place, a man named C. Livingston, who is now 74 years old, says he remembers the experience vividly. He was moving canned goods from the cabin to his bunker when he noticed unusual animal behavior. I came down the ladder carrying a box of canned fruit on my arms. As I climbed up the ladder to go back to the cabin, I noticed everything is eerily quiet. I didn't hear any birds or anything. I noticed these long, dark shapes lining up around the cabin, so close to each other that they looked like they were holding hands. I figured, well, they must be some critters looking for food. Looked like does with their fawns. Some were taller than the others, standing on their hind legs, trying to find an opening to get inside the cabin. He continued watching the unknown creatures circling the cabin, observing their bizarre behavior. I stayed there on the ladder for a few minutes, headed slightly out of the bunker, just watching them. I began to notice strange movements that didn't look like deer at all. I worried a little when I remembered I had left my rifle in the cabin. I was pretty sure they couldn't see me, so I just kept quiet for a while. He admits he grew impatient. He wanted to take a closer look at the animals. Besides, he says, it was getting dark. And as soon as I came out, they spotted me and began running toward me all at once. I didn't know what to make of it at that moment. For sure I was afraid, but I was more confused than I was afraid. According to the witness description, the animals were approximately 9 foot tall and walked as if they were limping. Their skin was black and gray, and it grew in wart-like knotty patches. That reminded Livingston of leprosy. They looked as if they were carrying this horrible disease. The skin looked like it was falling off. There were no ears on their long heads, only holes, and it gave me the willies. The eyes were so small I couldn't see them well. I closed down the bunker's door and locked myself in. Livingston was in complete isolation from the outside world. The bunker, he says, became his only one companion. I stared at the walls for hours. I tried to sleep through the night, but I kept hearing them outside, walking. I heard them claws hitting the door, and sometimes it sounded as if they were pouring liquid or sand on the surface. The creatures didn't appear to communicate verbally. Instead, the man says they made clapping sounds, similar to Morse code. The sun rose and silence took over. I didn't sleep at all. Next morning, the noises were gone, so I went up the ladder to check again. The eye, he recalls, was the most terrifying thing to see. The silence stopped, and they became agitated. So I suppose that they were able to feel my presence getting close to them. All of a sudden, as I look through the peephole, I see this eye that looks kind of like a bird's eye. It was very small, but I got to see it just fine. The pupil was black, and it kept dilating back and forth, non-stop. The iris was red, with little white spots around. When the hitting and the kicking began once again, a startled Livingston went back to the safety of the cold bunker's floor. I wondered when they'd leave, I sat in a corner and wept. In the morning, everything was silent, but I didn't hold my breath. I remember thinking, these demons are still out there, just waiting for me until I finally give up and come out. But they were gone. I looked through the people and I didn't see a thing. I knocked on the door and screamed, and nothing. No one was there. Livingston got on his pickup truck, and when he arrived home, he decided to keep the incident to himself. He sold that piece of land 2 years after the event. On July 19, 1991, Jared, a 12-year-old boy from El Monte, California, traveled to Camp Taquitos in the San Bernardino National Forest. He was going on an overnight camping trip with his Boy Scout troop, and they were planning to hike to the top of Mount San Gorgonio. As the troop neared to the top of the summit, Jared wandered away and disappeared, after apparently straying onto the wrong trail. When the troop discovered that Jared was missing, an extensive search was conducted of the area by rescue teams. They found a lot of matching shoe prints and some items which belonged to Jared. In spite of these clues, they could not find any trace of Jared. The story would probably be a straightforward and tragic case of a boy succumbing to the elements after getting lost in the wilderness. But Jared managed to leave behind one very haunting image. Jared's camera was also found in the woods, and its film contained 12 recent photographs which were eventually developed. Most of the pictures were landscape shots, which were taken before he disappeared. But the last photo was a self-portrait which Jared had taken of himself. Since Jared's arms were too short to hold the camera out, the photo only wound up capturing his eyes and nose. It seemed clear that Jared looked scared and that the mysterious picture was taken after he went missing. This self-portrait of Jared remains the last existing trace of him.